Today, the theory of evolution and Darwin's theory sound synonymous to us, but 160 years have passed since the publication of Darwin's main book, The Origin of Species. Has the evolutionary theory not changed since then, and scientists have not learned anything new? Criticism of the theory of evolution arose immediately after Charles Darwin published his Origin of Species by Natural Selection. This theory is perhaps the most criticized of all scientific theories. Let's see what arguments the opponents of the theory of evolution make. And let's start with the most popular argument. These are fossil anomalies. In total, more than 200 of them are known. We are talking about strange finds that do not correspond to their period, where the deadlines prescribed in modern biology and the like are violated. All such anomalies are recognized by scientists. They have been studied and documented, and each of them has its own answer. But 200 anomalies are too few compared to the approximately 250 million fossils that fully support the theory of evolution. And the theory of evolution has exceptions that only confirm the rule. For example, how could such complex organs as the eye have appeared in the course of evolution? Darwin called the eye the biggest problem for the theory of evolution. Nature, indeed, does not create something fundamentally new. Something grows in the body or a new functionality appears only on the basis of something already available. This explains why animals have only 4 paws, not 6 or 8, because they evolved from the fins of fish, of which there were 4. But the eye is not a leg, it is very complicated. In Darwin's time, it was impossible to answer this question, at least because at that time they did not know any mechanisms of evolution other than natural selection. But there are many more of them. For example, there is gene transfer between species. From the bacteria in our cells, we got the mitochondria. These are the power plants of our cells. So it happened in the case of the eye. There was a gene transfer between bacteria and the common ancestor of vertebrates. These were photoreceptor proteins that perceive light. They can still be found in unicellular organisms. A light-sensitive organ began to develop, and later he became susceptible to the optical range. Biologists have written hundreds of dissertations on this topic, and in biology, questions about the appearance of this complex organ, like many others, do not arise now. But other questions arise. Why the missing link between a monkey and a human has not yet been found. This is a question that people who studied using old textbooks like to ask very much. The problem was caused by the Neanderthals, who at that time were considered the ancestors of Homo sapiens. Since then, biology has greatly improved in understanding the processes of evolution. Bright discoveries have been made both in paleontology and in genetics. At the end of the 19th century, when scientists discovered well-preserved Neanderthal skeletons, they were immediately attributed to transitional species, and that immediately created a problem, because Neanderthals turned out to have many differences from Homo sapiens. But biologists have clung to the Neanderthal, trying to prove that he is a transitional link. Therefore, they often came to a dead end and became the object of criticism. In the year 2009, these speculations came to an end. The Neanderthal genome has been sequenced. It turned out that this is a dead and separate branch of human development. Neanderthals have a lot in common with other human species, and they are descendants of the so-called Heidelberg man. They also mixed with representatives of Homo sapiens. Up to 3% of our genome is from Neanderthals, but they were not our ancestors. Now scientists know not one transitional link, but a whole chain of transitional forms. And the question about the monkey is incorrect. Man did not originate from a monkey. These are great apes, and humans descended from a common ancestor. Humans separated from orangutans 14 million years ago, and from chimpanzees about 8 million years ago. Why do simple, underdeveloped organisms and higher ones exist in the world? If evolution exists, why don't bacteria develop into animals and humans? About the same question can be asked to any person. Why do you work as a builder, teacher, salesman, scientist, and not get elected president? The answer is simple. If a person likes what they do, if it gives them the resources to survive, that's enough to adapt to the outside world. And there is only one position of the president. It will take an incredible amount of resources, both time and financial and personal growth, to get at least a little closer to the top. Therefore, one should not assume that evolution is something reasonable, logical, which develops all living things. There are amazing examples in nature. For example, Trichoplax. This creature was much more developed, and then degraded, because it's more profitable for survival. There are unique marine forms that, being larvae, kill their brains and attach themselves to the bottom, like plants. Evolution works according to the laws of mathematics. The main thing is to increase the offspring, preferably with each generation. Then the population grows and its inherent qualities and mutations are fixed in it. And according to this scheme, the simplest, or higher insects like ants, feel great, and from the point of view of survival, they are doing well. Neither a meteorite nor a nuclear winter will kill them. Why is the monkey not evolving into a human now? Because monkeys are very comfortable in their niche. They have plenty of fruits in the jungle, and they are able to hide from predators in the trees. It's warm in Africa. A large brain does not give much advantage at the initial stage, but is pretty voracious. In humans, the brain consumes 20% of calories, although it weighs a little more than a kilogram. In science, it is important to confirm an idea in practice. What about the evolution that is not visible? After all, even small changes require a lot of time, much longer than scientists who can confirm or refute these conclusions live. For the beginning of the 20th century, it may have worked. Now scientists can track mutations and evolution, for example, at the level of bacteria, which are constantly updated, adapting to the environment. Plus, genetic analysis allows us to understand how the genome of certain species of living beings has changed from the distant past to the present day. Even Darwin himself abandoned his ideas. He was really going through a very difficult period at the end of his life, and he began to doubt his own conclusions. The main blow to the theory of evolution was inflicted by physicists. Lord Kelvin stated that since the sun has existed for 10 million years, evolution is basically impossible. After all, it will take much more time. Darwin himself calculated and agreed with Kelvin, because evolution, according to his estimates, took hundreds of millions of years. Kelvin was logically right, but he did not know the real age of the sun. Based on the physics known at that time, the sun should have burned out using thermodynamic processes in 10 million years. But soon after Darwin's death, nuclear reactions were discovered. Scientists have found out that the sun has existed for 4,570 million years. This means that there was more than enough time for the evolution of wildlife. Plus, Darwin had very few tools in his arsenal, and he was aware of this himself. And he hoped that in the future the successes of paleontology would help prove evolution, which is exactly what happened. Where do human rudiments come from? The coccyx, the muscles of the auricle, the appendix. In the course of evolution, all useless things must disappear. Firstly, the disappearance of the rudiments is gradual and not immediately. Whales also walked on all fours at first, and when they mastered the water element, the paws gradually disappeared from generation to generation. Secondly, as Darwin himself correctly noted, rudiments are not useless. For example, ostriches do not fly, but they need wings during mating rituals and to protect their ostriches. And the human appendix, for example, performs protective functions for the body. Rudiments just do it much less effectively than full-fledged body parts. Their functionality is often reduced, but they stay with the species for a long time because the function is there. But why, then, is the theory of evolution, and not Newtonian mechanics, being attacked in such a way, when, it would seem, everything has long been proven? The fundamental reasons for this are religious thinking. How so? Because God created everything with the help of magic, and it is in this form that we see all animals and plants. Now, there are no natural laws, and nature is unchangeable. Probably, these people consider gravity to be a miracle. That it's not the mass that affects it, but just demons sitting in the center of the earth and pulling a person down. He just has to jump up. In the Middle Ages, priests seriously explained the finds of dinosaurs by the fact that God specially scattered them on the ground so that people would not be so bored. Of course, in the 19th century, religious influence was no longer as strong as in the Middle Ages, but still significant. After all, people have believed in the creation of existence for thousands of years. Now religious objections are decreasing their degree. Many spiritual leaders recognize evolution, considering it to be a divine law according to which everything on earth developed. Therefore, evolution does not deny the idea of God. She generally talks about something else, about the development of living organisms on earth, and about who launched them here, where the law of evolution itself came from. Neither biology nor any other science deals with this. These are questions of theology and religion. It is pleasant for a person to live in conditions of stability. Evolution presupposes variability. Everything used to be different. Everything will change a lot later. Even Albert Einstein sincerely believed that the universe was stationary and tried to prove it. People love stability and find it difficult to accept the variability of our world. But no matter how strong the psychological barriers, the idea of evolution still became a scientific theory. That is, a proven knowledge system. The advent of electricity in the 19th century was a real miracle. During this period, the importance of science for people reached its peak. The theory of evolution does not stand still and is constantly evolving. Darwin's evolution was replaced by a synthetic theory of evolution, which includes research in the field of genetics and paleontology. This is how science differs from religion. Scientists do not consider their truth to be infallible and unique, but are constantly working to improve it. This clarifies the picture of the world and helps humanity to develop